Hello everyone, this is my last lecture in this series of 60 lectures on main group chemistry. Today let me consolidate whatever I discussed in the last 59 lectures. So before I start that one, I am showing you some of these reference books I have used here. Advanced Inorganic Chemistry 6th edition and also Organometallic Chemistry, a concise introduction by Eichenbroich, and also Inorganic Chemistry, a 3rd edition by D.F. Shriver and Atkins, and Inorganic Chemistry one can use 2nd, 3rd or 4th edition by C.E. Housecraft and A.G. Sharpe. Besides this, I have also taken some information from Wikipedia and other internet sources, and also some journals. Of course, wherever I have taken, I have mentioned the articles details, so you can look into it. So let me begin with about covalent bonding, and of course the bonding concept is very important whether we consider main group chemistry or transmetallic chemistry, and we should be able to distinguish between the type of bonds we come across in a molecule. For example, if you see FF covalent bond is there, and covalent bond can be non-polar covalent bond or polar covalent bond. Non-polar covalent bonds are very stable, and if you want to do any reaction with such molecules, we have to first polarize and make it polar covalent bond, then only reaction happens. For example, when we come across non-polar, when we come across polar, can be clearly known by looking into the two atoms which are contributing electrons. For example, non-polar covalent bond, equal sharing of bonding pair will be there. That means if the electronegativity difference is marginal, then you have a non-polar covalent bond. If the electronegativity difference is considerable, then we have polar covalent bond, and of course if the electronegativity difference is too large, then that leads to the formation of ionic bond. And let us look into the MO diagram I have given here for BF3. Sometime we think that writing MO diagram for polyatomic molecules is little complicated. It is not really. So here at least one of the central atom will be there, and several other atoms will be binding to the central atom. These several peripheral atoms. So essentially we consider the orbitals from those as ligand group orbitals. For example, look into BF3 here. In case of BF3, we have a total of 24 electrons, 7 each from fluorine atoms, 7 into 3 21, and 3 electrons from boron S2P1. So now we have to accommodate these 24 electrons, and first let us look into the Lewis dot structure. Of course, when we write Lewis dot structure for BF3, we simply write like this. And here octet is not satisfied for boron because it has only 6 electrons, and of course this is less Lewis acidic compared to BCl3 because of 2p2p interaction. So these 2 electrons might come here so that it can give little bit of completion of the octet, 2 electrons. And in case of this is Lewis dot structure. In case of valence bond theory, what we do is boron undergoes sp2 hybridization, okay. Hence, so this is tetrahedral is not possible. So basically what happens, it undergoes sp2 hybridization, angle is 120. So this is what we say here. Of course, here we do not talk about octet satisfaction. Here it is electron deficient. So then how to write MO diagram? MO diagram is shown here. You can see that means essentially 12 ligand group or 8. That means here 3 fluorine atoms are giving 21 electrons, and then 3 electrons are coming. So total we have 24 electrons. Out of 24 electrons, if you see here, 6 electrons are essentially used for making 3 boron to fluorine bonds, and now this one, whatever I have shown here, this one is responsible for making p-pi interaction to remove little bit of electron deficiency. That means these two electrons are coming from fluorine atom, and now with this one we have left with about out of 24, 8 are the 16 electrons, are these 16 electrons essentially remain here as 8 pairs non-bonding. So, that means still molecular orbital theory gives a complete picture, and also it shows the possible p-pi interaction between fluorine and boron to remove its electron deficiency, and hence these 4 pairs can be considered as satisfying the octet of boron. So, that means basically lot of information comes, and better information comes from molecular orbital theory. Let us look into one more example here, SF6 molecule, and SF6 molecules, if you go to the valence bond theory, we assume that sulfur undergoes sp3d2 hybridization, and it generates 6 hybrid orbital having 1 electron each, and that combines with 6 fluorine atoms to form an octahedral molecule having 12 electrons surrounding it. But if you look into the MO diagram here, the 3D energy is very high compared to 3p and 3s. As a result, it is less likely that they will participate in bonding. This is actually MO diagram for SF molecule here, and they are not participating. As a result, what happens, only 8 electrons are coming here, and remaining 4 electrons are essentially remain as non-bonding, and they stay on almost fluorine orbitals or on fluorine atoms. So, that means this shows that SF6 is a hypervalent molecule, and same analogy can also be extended to disodium hexafluorosilicate Na2SiF6. So, that means there will be some difference in the understanding of the bonding between valence bond theory and molecular orbital theory, but however molecular orbital theory gives a better picture of the structural aspects that are there in each and every molecule. And of course, this is a polyatomic molecule. As I said, polyatomic molecule can be understood in this fashion. A summary about structure and bonding is, we began with Lewis model where we showed octet and also its limitation, and also VSCPR theory. It gives steric numbers, and also it predicts geometry as well as shape. Then valence bond theory with hybridization concept, again it gives about geometry as well as shape, and molecular orbital theory gives bond distance, bond strength, and also it gives some idea about the reactivity of those molecules and also magnetic properties. So, conceptual steps used in bonding, starting from molecular formula to the hybrid orbital, you can get information from one or the other of these bonding concepts. However, for the understanding of the complete physical and chemical properties, one has to go for molecular orbital theory. Let us begin with group 1. Of course, group 1 we have only 1 electron in its valence shell, and the oxidation state is +1. They do not show any other oxidation state other than +1. With water, they readily form hydroxides which are strongly alkaline in nature, hence name alkali metals. So, that means all their oxides are basic in nature, they react with water to give the corresponding hydroxides. And of course, I also discussed the uses of group 1 elements. Lithium is used in the manufacture of alloys and in certain glasses and ceramics. Lithium carbonate is used in the treatment of manic depressive disorders, and sodium potassium alloy is used as a heat exchange coolant in nuclear reactors. A major use of sodium lead alloy was in the production of anti-knock agent such as tetraethyl lead. It is no longer used, but the increasing demand for unleaded fuels renders this of decreasing importance. The major consumption of sodium chloride is the manufacture of sodium hydroxide, chlorine, and sodium carbonate. And a large fraction of sodium salt is used for winter road de-icing in cold countries. Potassium hydroxide is used in soap manufacturing to make soft liquid soaps. Potassium chloride and sulfate are used as fertilizers. Nitrate and chlorate of potassium are used in fireworks. Many organic syntheses involve lithium, sodium, or magnesium and their organometallic derivatives. Market for rubidium cesium elements is small and highly specialized. Applications include glass for fiber optics in the telecommunication industry, night vision equipments, and also photoelectric cells. These elements are used. And in case of alkaline earth metals, having ns2 electronic configuration, ox state is +2, and beryllium differs from other elements owing to its smaller size. That is true in case of almost all elements in the first row. The chemistry of first row elements are slightly different because of the smaller size and high charge to size ratio. And beryllium resembles aluminum. We introduce their diagonal relationship, and atomic and ionic radii are smaller than those of group 1 elements. And of course, alkali metals have the largest size in the row, and the least francium is the largest atom known, and the helium is the smallest in the periodic table out of 118 elements. Beryllium is used in the manufacture of body parts in high speed aircraft and missiles, and also in communication satellites. Because of its low density, beryllium is a poor absorber of electromagnetic radiation, and as a result it is used in the X-ray tube windows. Its high melting and low cross section for neutron captures make beryllium useful in nuclear energy industry. The presence of magnesium in magnesium alloy imparts greater mechanical strength and resistance to corrosion and improve fabrication properties. As a result, and also because of the lighter nature, magnesium aluminum alloys are used in aircraft and automobile body parts and lightweight tools. And both magnesium and calcium ions are catalysts for diphosphate triphosphate transformation in biological system. That is very important. Magnesium 2 plus is an essential constituent of chlorophyll in green plants. Important use of lime are in the steel industry, pulp and paper manufacturing, and also in extraction of magnesium. So, calcium carbonate is in huge demand in steel, glass, cement and concrete manufacturing, and also in solvay process. And calcium fluoride occurs naturally as the mineral fluorspar and is commercially important as the raw material for the manufacture of HF and fluorine gas. Let us come to the group 13. Having ns2 np1 electronic configuration, the group ox state is +3. However, when you go down the group, the tendency to have lower coordination comes into the picture because of inert pair effect, and inert pair effect begins in fact with group 13. Also, indium partly shows inert pair effect. Inert pair effect is more pronounced in case of thallium as far as group 13 elements are concerned, and then it spreads across tin and lead, and also it moves on to group 15 elements such as antimony and bismuth, and then tellurium. And except for boron, other elements have low electronegativity value and are all metals. As I said, +3 oxygen state dominates the chemistry of group 13 elements, and +1 oxygen state is reasonably stable for thallium, and in fact +3 is oxidizing in nature. And sodium borohydride and lithium aluminum hydride find application as very useful reducing agents in inorganic and organic synthesis, and all boron trihalides are strong Lewis acids. The main use of boron is in borosilicate glass. Borax has many domestic uses, for example as a water softener, cleaner and mild pesticide. Boric acid is used as a mild antiseptic as well. Elemental boron is used in the production of impact resistant steel and in control rods for nuclear reactors. Amorphous boron is used in pyrotechnics, giving a cast green color when it burns. Aluminum is the most widely used non-ferrous metal. The technological uses of aluminum metal exploits its lightness, resistance to corrosion, and in fact it is easily recyclable. It is also used in cans, foils, utensils, in construction and also in aircraft alloys. And gallium and indium phosphides, arsenides and antimonides have important applications in semiconductor industry. In fact, their semiconductor properties are much superior to the silicon semiconductors. They are used as transistor materials and in high light emitting diodes, laser dipoles, photodetectors and solar cells, integrated circuits, example in high performance computers. Thallium sulfate was used to kill ants and rats, but the extremely high toxicity level of thallium compounds are now well recognized, and as a result they are not used as poisons. Important uses of thallium are in semiconducting materials, in selenium rectifiers, in thallium activated sodium chloride and sodium iodide crystals, in gamma radiation detectors, and also in IR radiation detection and transmission equipments. So group 14 with NS2 NP2 electronic configuration are almost at the middle of the main group elements. Of course, carbon is well known for its organic chemistry and also catenation, and silicon finds uses in semiconductors. And diamond is the hardest known substance, and apart from its commercial value as a gemstone, it has application in cutting tools and abrasives. Its thermal and electrical properties make graphite suitable as a refractory material and for uses in batteries and fuel cells. Carbon fibers having great tensile strength are used to strengthen materials such as plastics. Silicon has major application in the steel industry and in electronic and semiconductor industries. Silica is an extremely important commercial material. It is the main component of glass manufacturing, and large quantities of sand are consumed worldwide by the building industry. Of course, we have in India now the scarcity of silica, that is the sand for construction. Carbon fibers having great tensile strength are used to strengthen materials such as plastics. The commercial demand for germanium is small, and the most important applications are those in fiber, infrared optics, and arise from the optical properties of germanium oxide. Tin plating of steel cans improves corrosion resistance and is a major use of tin. High quality window glass is usually manufactured by tin. Lead is a soft metal and has been widely used in the plumbing industry. This use has diminished as awareness of the toxicity of the metal has grown nowadays. That is the reason even now those who come for look into these problems as called plumbers, as earlier plumbum was used in these water pipes and other things, and also in plumbing. So lead acid storage batteries are not only in the automobile industry, but also as power sources for industrial forklifts, mining vehicles and airport ground services, and for independent electrical power sources, and also in hospital. Group 15 elements show +3 as well as +5 as group oxygen states. +3 state is most stable for bismuth due to inert pair effect, and tendency to have +5 state decreases down the group again because of inert pair effect. Nitrogen shows -3 to +5 oxygen state, and phosphorus shows both +3 and +5 oxygen states, and +3 compounds are widely used as ligands in coordination chemistry and organometallic chemistry, and also some of these phosphines find application in homogeneous catalysis. And of course, group 15 elements are also called as pnictogens, and they have non-metal in nitrogen to main group metal bismuth. Nitrogen is essential for the industrial production of ammonia and nitric acid. The major non-chemical use of nitrogen gas is an inert atmosphere in metal processing, petroleum refining and food processing. Nitrogen gas is used to provide an inert atmosphere in the laboratory. Liquid nitrogen is a convenient refrigerant in both industry and in the laboratory. With boiling point -196 degrees centigrade. The important application of phosphorus is in phosphate fertilizers. Phosphoric acid is industrially very important and is used on a large scale in the production of fertilizers, detergents and food additives. Arsenic salts and arsenes are extremely toxic, and uses of arsenic compounds in weed killers, sheep and cattle dips, and poisons against vermin. Arsenic is a doping agent in semiconductors, and gallium arsenide has widespread uses in solid state devices and semiconductors. And Sb2O3, antimony trioxide, is used in paints, adhesives and plastics, and as a flame retardant as well. Major uses of bismuth are in alloys with tin and as a bismuth containing compounds such as BiOCl in cosmetic products like creams, hair dyes and tints. Group 16 has NS2NP4 electronic configuration. Of course, the group oxygen state is -2, and also it can also go to up to +6 in case of sulfur. Oxygen it only -2, and it shows +2 oxygen state only when it is combined with fluorine. And oxygen is the second most electronegative element in the periodic table next to fluorine, and lower oxygen states are stabilized in case of heavier group 16 elements because of inert pair effect. The important use of oxygen is as a fuel for oxyacetylene and hydrogen flames, as a supporter of respiration under special conditions and in steel manufacturing, sulfur mainly in the form of sulfuric acid. An important property of selenium is its ability to convert light into electricity, and the element is used in photoelectric cells, photographic exposure meters and photocopiers. A major use of selenium also is in the glass industry. Tellurium is used as an additive less than 0.1% to low carbon steels in order to improve the machine qualities of the metal. The catalytic applications are also important, and other applications stem from its semiconducting properties. Example, cadmium telluride has recently been incorporated into solar cells. Of course, when you go to group 17, group oxidate is -1. They are the most electronegative elements in the periodic table. Polonium is the metal, it has the metallic property, and it is the last one in the periodic table to show metallic properties. And PbI4 is a non-existent compound because it is a combination of highly reducing iodine and highly oxidizing lead in its +4 state. The important uses of group 17 elements includes the nuclear fuel industry that uses fluorine in the production of UF6, uranium hexafluoride, for fuel enrichment process, and this is now the major use of fluorine. Industrially, the most important fluorine containing compounds are HF, BF3, CaF2 and synthetic rhyolite. Chlorinated organic compounds including 1,2-dichloroethane and vinyl chloride for the polymer industry are hugely important. Dichlorine was widely used as a bleach in the paper and pulp industry, but environmental legislation have resulted in the changes. The manufacture of bromine and iodine containing organic compounds is a primary application of these halogens. And of course, other uses include those of iodide salts and silver bromide in the photographic industry. Because of digital photography now, this silver bromide is no longer used. Noble gases also show some reactivity, and we saw a lot of compounds of xenon and few compounds of krypton. With extensive chemistry, xenon is not really an inert, and as I said, argon is almost 30 times more abundant than carbon dioxide in atmosphere. Helium is used as an inert gas and as a light source in lasers and electric discharge lamps. Liquid helium is a very low temperature refrigerant. Being very light and non-flammable, helium is used to inflate the tires of large aircraft and in balloons, including weather balloons. Liquid helium is an important coolant and is used in high field NMR spectrometers. Argon is also used in laboratory inert atmosphere. Boxes for handling air sensitive compounds, and neon, krypton and xenon are used in electric discharge signs. So, with this let me come to the conclusion. This learning process is very important, and one should have always heart for learning anything, and especially chemistry, because we are all having one of the sophisticated laboratories in us. Just look into our own body, all kind of mechanical, biological, everything happens in our body. I don't think man can ever make something like this. Okay. So, being the proud owners of such a sophisticated chemical laboratory within us, is it not embarrassing if you do not know some chemistry? From that point of view, I think we should know some basic chemistry, and it will enrich our knowledge, and without chemistry I can tell you there is no life. If you take anything, a chemistry component is there. Okay. So, as a result, learning chemistry helps us in understanding many things in day-to-day life. So, be greedy for learning, be content with earning. And of course, when you listen to a classroom lecture, in the limited period of time, a teacher may not be able to give all the details pertinent to a particular topic, and he can only give the abstract or little more than what you can think of, but it is not enough. On the other hand, you have to go to write textbooks, and you have to enhance your knowledge and also make a note of it, and then the learning process will attain some completeness, and then at the end you will be having some satisfaction. With this I conclude my lecture, and I made an effort to teach main group chemistry in a very simple manner, for which what I did was I simplified all vast and diversified chemistry of main group elements into just 4 categories. That means interaction of main group elements with hydrogen to form hydrides, and interaction of all main group elements with oxygen and the chalcogens to form oxides and sulfides, selenides and tellurides, and then interaction of all main group elements with halogens to form the halides. And the 4th category of compound includes organometallic compounds, that means interaction of main group elements with organic moieties, carbon fragments and carbides, and also borides and nitrates. So, when we look into each of these component and when we study group wise, and in 2 groups we come across that one. For example, if we take sodium oxide or calcium oxide, we study sodium oxide in group 1 and also when you go to group 15, group 16. In the same way, when you go for calcium oxide, we understand from the point of calcium from the group 2, that is alkaline earth metals, and when you go to oxygen, we understand the chemistry from the oxygen point of view. So, when we learn like this is just 4 class of compounds. Just about understanding anything and everything will be very easy, and also all fundamental aspects. You go for electronegativity, atomic size, ionic size, electron attachment enthalpy, electronegativity, all those things are very nicely imbibed, periodic trends and periodic properties in the chemistry of main group elements. Once we thoroughly understand the chemistry of main group elements, understanding just about anything, no matter where this chemistry component comes, recognizing it and its role can be understood very easily. From this point of view, I believe learning main group chemistry is very, very important, and it is a stepping stone to understand all other aspects of chemistry, no matter where it appears. With this, again I repeat the quote that I made: be greedy for learning and be content with earning. And if you have any query, you can always write to me. I have given my email address. Thank you very much.